Chris sabotaged us when he jumped out. So we're talking Furiosa, and hopefully you find us again. Thanks, Chris. So basically, what happens is Furiosa outs Dementus. Dement. I'm not gonna
Dementus. Yes.
Dementus. Man, I'm struggling with this word today. Dementus. Furiosa outs Dementus in front of Immortal Joe and says he's not my father. So Joe's got all kind of leverage at that point and says basically, I'll give you a 20% increase in this. I'll give you a 20% increase in that. Hey, thanks for. I think people are slowly finding their way back to the show, so we're just continuing on the chat. For those of you who are wondering, Chris
Yeah.
sabotaged us.
Sabotages.
Shame on Chris. Shame on Chris. I think my mom is calling me now. She wants to know, are we back in? Hey, Ma, just turn it back on. Chris sabotaged us. Yeah, everything's gone. Yeah, we're back on there. Go look. All right, love you. All right, people are panicked. People are panicked. They're running to the streets. All right. So what Immortal Joe does though in that moment is he basically says, "Give me the girl, and I'll give you 20% of this and like some percent of that."
Right.
And Ensworth doesn't really have much leverage at that point, so he does it. He's put out, and it's weird because it's almost like he really believes that Furiosa wants to be with him after he made her watch him eviscerate her mother.
Yeah.
And so you're like, he's clearly, there's something wrong with the dude. So she stays there, and Immortal Joe makes her one of his breeders, basically, right? He's got a room filled with beautiful women who he breeds with, and he wants, when Furiosa comes of age, that she will produce for him a healthy child. That's
Right.
what he's hoping. Now, Immortal Joe has a couple of
He got two sons. Rictus, I'm sorry, yeah, Rictus Erectus, which I did not know that was the last part of his name, but it's fitting.
yeah,
Um, that was the bald one who with the
yeah.
with the respirator on, and he also had, I forgot what the other one, the other son's name was, which I was interested in that son because he's not in Mad Max. He only has the one son. Well, he has a couple of sons, but we don't see
Right,
that son that's that's gun ho for war and everything. So,
right.
but anyway, but Rictus takes a liking, a shine to young Furiosa, which is super creepy, as you would
It's super
imagine.
creepy because she's super young. She's like
Yeah,
12 years old at this point in the film, and so in the middle of the night, Rictum
yeah,
goes to get young Furiosa. Now Furiosa's smart, man. So what she does though, she kind of picks up on the fact that she's not safe around this guy.
right,
And so she shaves her head off. She shaves her hair off, but she glues it. She melts wax and glues it to a thing and wears it kind of like a wig on her head.
right.
And lo and behold, Rectum here grabs her in the middle of the night, and he starts to try to do something, and she shakes some beads that are in her hair that distracts him because he's not so smart. And
Which also before that, I'm sorry, before she does this, one of the breeders has a kid because they also traded off the organic mechanic
right,
since he was a doctor,
right,
and they have a child. Which I had a thought. They had a child, and the child was born with a deformity. It was pretty much had one head and like two torsos and legs.
yeah.
Like it was pretty crazy, but it was alive though. I wonder what happened to that kid. Anyway, but I always wondered like if the son can make his way into the vote whenever he wants,
Right.
like what how do we know that the sons are not actually doing, you know what I mean, and then those are not Imperious Joe's kids, it's the son's kids, and
Right.
that's why they're all deformed. I don't know. That was what I was thinking when this whole thing was happening, when he just opened up the vault, was able to sneak her out. But yeah, so she sneaks out, or she gets taken, gets brought into the room. He rips off, or he cuts off the chastity belt, started playing with her hair, and as soon as he starts doing that, she books it. And as she runs away, again, she's smart. She sees some grease on some pipes. It covers her face with it, and she just makes her way out and hides underneath one of the pipe bridges that leads in between two of the structures. And Rick just comes out in a panic, and his older brother's there with some of the war boys, and he has the hair still in his hand, so he kind of just like chucks it and acts
Yeah.
like he was confused, wasn't sure what was going, like, oh, I had a dream. And then he walks away, and the older brother was kind of just, like, you're stupid. Like, you're my little brother, but like one of those, like, you do for your younger kid, your younger siblings, like, idiot, and kind of just walks off. And you see young Furiosa underneath the pipe hiding, and she manages to integrate into I guess the war boys. Well, not really. Well, she wasn't a war boys at first. She was the what were they? She was one of the people that opened up the gate. So people had to manually open up the gate. They were stepping on gears and whatnot. So she
Right.
she integrated into that, and then she proved her worthiness by saving one of the rigs that they were going to use for parts. And then this is where you see her rise up through the ranks to Furiosa, and that's this like kind of the beginning of it now.
So basically, what happens is she disguises herself as a boy at this point in the film, and then we
Right.
have a large passage of time where finally we get Anya in the part. Right,
Hmm.
this is the first time we're actually seeing her, and so we got this big time jump, and she is hidden for all these years in plain sight with shaved head as one of the boys up on top of the gate. And then they're trying to hoist up this old jalopy looking truck to scrap it for parts, and just rigging points are busting off of it. People are falling to their deaths, and the older brother starts shouting at people to get involved. I think he even tells his younger brother to go, and he goes, "I'm too big," or he tells someone
Yeah.
else to go, "I'm too big." And so he randomly points out some other person to go, but then instantly sees that little scrawny looking dude who's Furiosa and says, "No, you go, you're small." And so Furiosa just jump, jump, jump. She's like Spider Man's her way on top of the car, fixes the rigging point, hoists it up. She jumps back onto the wall. The guy takes off the gloves from the gate master's hands and says,
Right.
"You're promoted to gate master." And so yeah, we see her raising up the going up the ranks. Now, all the while, we know that she's plotting to try to get home, and at this point, she also probably want revenge on Hemsworth's character, right?
Hmm.
Um, and by this point, Hemsworth has taken over Gastown, and he's getting really bad reviews from the people. He's kind of like running Gastown into the ground, and half of his original crew has gone defecto and started their own kind of offshoot crew, and they're raiding. Uh,
Well, before that, we are introduced to Praetorian Jack, who is pretty much the Furiosa. He is the leader of the convoy. He drives the big rig, the war rig,
that's right.
and he has a legend about him where he has never came back empty handed. He always completed his task. So from there, Furiosa actually devised a plan. As we saw, she was kind of scheming and like doing things around the war rigs as they were making a brand new one, and she devised a plan that when the war rig is complete, she's going to go out and escape. So she rigged up a bike underneath one of the tanks and hid herself on one of the runs to Bulletown.
Right.
Right? Was it Bullet Farm? No, it
Yes.
was Gastown. It was Gastown.
Well, we never
Uh,
actually see them reach that destination that
right.
time.
They had to come back because they were ambushed.
Well, they continue on the journey. So basically, what happens is, yes, Furiosa devises a means of escape. She puts
Mm,
a vehicle underneath the war rig's chassis,
right.
and as the war rig is making its track from uh, the Citadel to either Bullet Farm or Gastown, it is ambushed, hardcore ambushed, and everyone is pretty much taken out except for her, who eventually she's also hidden under the truck at this point, but as the battle ensues, she eventually has to get involved in the fight in order to keep the truck on the road.
Hmm.
She befriends Jack, who's the driver of the truck, and
Well,
by the
they
end,
they had to come to an understanding because he ended up kicking her off. I
yes,
forgot exactly how it happened, but she ended up getting off the rig and was pretty much walking, and he is
he
driving
comes up.
off, and he comes walking back, and he gives her an option. He was like, "Listen, you can shoot me, but you got nowhere else to go, or you can work with me. You can work up the ranks, and I can set you up to a point where you can go wherever you want after that."
Well, yeah, he basically comes. Well, so by the end of the battle, and this is it's one of the best battles in the film, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
The assault on the war rig for the first time. So eventually, she teams up with Jack, and they're the only two survivors, and they take out everyone. And there's
Mm,
dozens and dozens of people. And yeah, he kicks her off the rig. She starts walking, and then as she's walking, you hear him shout out after her, "Where are you going? Like, where were you going? Where do you think you were going?" Something like that.
yeah,
And he does. He gives her the option. He goes, "You can keep going the way you're going. You can shoot me." Or what he does is he sees the potential in her because more than anyone else who was in that battle, she was super smart, right? She was able to kind of read the room, see what's going on, be preemptive, and she had great instincts. So he says, "Listen, I'm in a compromised position. I'm going to have to completely reassemble a team to continue these runs. Why don't you come with me? I'll
mm,
teach you how to navigate the Fury Road and spend some time with me. And then at the end of it, I will set you up so you have the skill set, the means, and the capability to go anywhere it is you're trying to go to."
right,
And so, thus, and then I thought this for the third time. I thought, so the movie's finally starting,
right.
right? This is Furiosa's origin story right here. Now, the biggest disservice for the movie is this moment to me because what they do is they time jump. They time jump like 5 years or 3 years or some amount of years.
Right.
They skipped over the whole part where she actually becomes Furiosa driving the war rig on the road. Right? They time jumped
No,
that whole segment.
no, because she was still training. But by the
Yes,
time we get to that point, she's still kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say
she's driving the
an
rig at this
apprentice.
point.
She's like a journeyman at this point. She's not an
Yes,
apprentice. She's a
yes,
journeyman.
but yes, you're right. But they skipped like 3 years. They skipped
Right.
like the whole her
I
learning
mean,
the road.
listen, we got 3.5 hours here. Like, what more do you need?
I'm not. You're right. You're right.
But the
I'm
thing
not.
is, you see Praetorian Jack, and you see how he fight and how cunning he is and resourceful he is. So you kind of have to put like that what his training is, and just assume that she took on that training. And plus, you saw how she was within that first battle, so you
Yeah.
understand that she's also as resourceful as Praetorian. So you
Yes.
just kind of have to put the whole
I
she got
know.
that training
And
over
they
the
ask
years.
you to do that. They ask you to do that with one big swipe of grease across her forehead, and you go, "Okay, I guess. I
I
guess."
mean, you can't get everything, right? Not unless you want to sit there for like 4 hours to get all the years of training. Well, you kind of have to do that.
Yeah. So yeah. So they skip that part. They just kind of completely jump over that part. Now, I'll also say this, Rich. I'm
Mhm.
watching this movie, and I'm watching the war rig drive from one desert town to another,
Right.
and there's only one desert highway, and
Hmm.
it's maybe 12, 15 feet across.
Right.
It's just one big stretch of road, and there's nothing on the road, nothing near the road. There's nothing but sand and the road,
Yeah.
and perfect line of sand between the sand and the road. I mean, that desert highway is crystal clear in the middle of everything, just a giant stretch of 1,000,000 miles with nothing in sight.
I know where you're going with this. Keep going though.
Okay, and so everybody wants to stop the war rig. Everyone wants whatever's on there, whether it's food or bullets or gas or whatever they're putting in it. We're going to stop that damn thing. And we're going to take away whatever resources they have in it.
Mm,
And they throw everything in the world at that war rig as it's driving down this one pristine patch of road. Now, my question is this: the war rig is not really set up to drive in the sand. It's not a buggy or anything, and you
right.
never see it not on the road. It is only on the road. It's never in the sand. Why don't they just block the road? Why don't they just block the road? Why don't they just put like a bunch of nails or something on the ground and pop all the tires at once?
These are mutated, malnourished, like like
I'm sitting here
malnourished.
watching like the
Just
most easy thing to take out, and nobody doing a.
no one said you get
I
smarts
mean,
out
wait,
in the
wait, wait, wait,
wasteland.
Rich.
Uh,
They come up with every Tom and Jerry kind of solution they could, like people on trapeze, people on parachutes, people on like giant fans, like any weird thing you can think of, pole vaulting onto the thing. They're coming up with it, except for, oh yeah, why don't we just lay a strip on the one patch of road that's there? There's no, there's literally no other path.
it's
Come on.
too much exposure to the sun, and no proper nourishment, no water. You're not thinking clear. They get to the point where you're so desperate that you're robbing the nearest convoy, and you got to wait for that to happen, and that doesn't happen all the time. It pops out once a month. You know
Okay. So anyway, to make a long story short,
reasons.
yeah, reasons. That's the golden answer. To make a long story short, Furiosa and Jack develop a relationship. They
Right.
kind of fall in love. And Furiosa, the whole time she's in the film, she's been doing a tattoo on her arm, which is basically a map of how she gets back to her green
Yeah.
paradise.
Yeah.
Right?
She's charting the stars, which is the oldest way of navigating.
Exactly, star charts. And so eventually what happens is Jack says, so meanwhile Chris Hemsworth's character is creating all kinds of trouble. And
Yes,
so
he's
there's
not doing a very good job as the now and as the
Gastown,
now leader of Gastown.
right? And so it's all kind of falling apart. And he's also decided that he wants all towns. He wants Bullet Town, he wants Gastown, and he wants the Citadel. So he's creating problems, and Immortal Joe is about to go to war with them.
They're all
Wow.
descendants of criminals.
Well, there's that.
Oh man.
and so Jack tells Furiosa, let's do this one last thing, essentially, and we'll get out of here. And Furiosa basically says, come with me. And he does. He says he will. But then what happens is he's tasked with, Jack and Furiosa and the convoy are tasked with the mission to go fill up the convoy with as many bullets as possible. So
Mm.
they're headed to the bullet farm.
Before that, they go to Gastown,
Yeah, and it's
and
basically he's
it's like
locked.
everyone's rabid. Everyone's just crazy, whether it be from starvation, which I'm assuming is starvation because they just
Mhm.
don't have enough food and everything like that. Dementis has run this place into the ground. So
Yep.
when they pull in, everyone's just a bunch of animals. So Dementis is the top guys. They're keeping everyone back, and they're even shooting them if they have to. But there's only a few people versus a whole horde, and
Yep.
as you would imagine, that's not going to last long. Eventually, they start ransacking the food and everything like that, and Dementis is like, "Hey, if you want to get out of here, follow me." He does a loop around Bullet Town, having to fight off a few. I'm sorry, not Bullet Town, Gas Town, having to fight off a few people, and then making it out the door, and that's when they make it back with. This is the first time that they made it back without any of their cargo, right? And
Right.
they explain to him. Also, Dementis sends them a message. Hey, we got an issue. I need to talk to the council. in like
Right.
what he said, like 3 days time,
Right.
in
At Bullet
person at Bullet Town, right?
Town. Right.
So so yeah, so
And
that's when they make it back, and then now they have to devise a plan of getting rid of Dementis and how they're going to do such and so on, and that's where
exactly.
you're at.
So the plan to get rid of them is go to Bullet Town, fill up the war rig with as many bullets of every caliber as possible, and then we're gonna lay siege to Gastown.
Right.
And so when the war rig gets to Bullet Town, Dementis has already taken it over.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this moment, the war rig is overpowered. Pretty big battle ensues in Bullet Town, where Jack is really compromised, and Furiosa and Jack have also devised a plan to kind of cut out if things get hairy.
All right.
Things do get hairy, and
Right.
Furiosa is
Because
in a position where she can.
before that, before they actually make the Bullet Town, they stop. He tells the war boys to load the two bikes up on one of the trucks,
Right,
load up all the fuel and water and food there, and everybody gets on the rig.
right.
So Furiosa and another vehicle were kind of, she was playing pursuit vehicle, so she was on the tail end, and they make it in there. So when everything happened, Furiosa was still on the outside of the gate, and honestly, that was her time to just cut out. My
And she
opinion.
could have cut out, but
Yeah,
her heart was saying, "Hey, man, don't leave Jack.
yeah,
You know, find a place for him on that raft."
true,
And
and
so she does what Kate Winslet couldn't do. She goes and she saves Jack. And they eventually get on their little they tear off. But they tear off and Hemsworth character is in hot pursuit, right?
yes,
And that ends up getting pretty bad. So by the end of it, what happens is Hemsworth catches up to him,
catches them, disables their vehicle, uh,
takes
their
takes
flip takes them out, and then Hemsworth does what Hemsworth does.
oh, it's terrible.
The same, pretty much the same thing he did with that boss from when they were in the desert. They strapped up Jack, have
Hmm.
him getting dragged around, and they hung up Furiosa. Mind you, within that pursuit, Furiosa's arm with the star chart on it, the one that she's going to lose, it got crushed. So now
Right,
it's disabled. It's dangling, and they strap her up by that arm
right.
as they make her watch Jack get pretty much chased around, and then he releases his dogs. So not only chased around, but he's getting. We're assuming he's getting eaten by the dogs as he's being dragged.
And then you got a passage of time where we go from day into to dusk, and they're still driving Jack, or they're dragging Jack around the back of the bike on the desert at this point. So we know he's just done. Chris Hemsworth's character has gotten bored, so he goes, "All right, let's stop, let's go." And then he sees Furiosa's arm is just dangling,
Yeah, it's
dangling.
dangling. Furios has escaped.
Yep,
Now it's the mad dash to find Furiosa or to get to Furiosa, and I think how they found her. No, that was before.
they
Anyway,
don't find her. Yeah,
no, they don't find her. But on top of that, which I appreciate, but also at the same time, you're losing mad blood. How were you able to do that? She takes a length of chain and was able to wrap around the rear axles. So when he went to go speed away, his rear wheels came flying off.
right.
I was just like, I appreciate that, but also at the same time, you're probably in shock. You lost a lot of blood. How were you able to do this?
Hey man, every great hero is missing a arm or a hand.
Yeah, so now we get her walking back, right? She stumbles, she falls, and you see Mad Max. Actually, he's on that ridge, and it looks like it was possibly the same ridge he might have been on before,
Yeah,
at the beginning of Mad Max Fury Road. Excuse me.
yes, that's what it
So
looks like.
he grabs her, or at least we assume that he grabs her and brings her to the
The
Citadel,
Citadel, yeah.
but she doesn't make it actually to the Citadel. She makes it to the that hole in the ground at the beginning of the battle, of the first battle,
Hmm.
and it looks like they were. I don't know if they were harvesting maggots or if they were harvesting dead. I don't. It was weird. I don't know if they were going to eat her or if they were just like having maggots, grow on them, because maggots are a form of protein if you're ever in a pinch, you know. But it was a
They
weird.
were, they were using the maggots to disinfect the wound, right?
But they were on dead bodies though. That was the thing that got me. They were on like that limb wasn't attached to her body when she was scraping the maggots off. So it's almost
Right.
like, are you using the maggots or are you actually eating the people and the maggots? I don't
Well,
know.
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, so she gets out of the hole.
They were just limbs,
Huh?
but
There were limbs, there were
well,
torsos.
cannibalism is clearly the thing. I mean, even
Yeah.
Hemsworth's character is eating like finger sausages.
Yes, because because he brought him. They brought him a sausage made from one of those people that they
Yeah,
captured. So
yeah,
yeah. So they make it back. They have the ramp down, and Furiosa gets out the hole and makes her way to the ramp, and she identifies herself. They pull her up. They go to the Almighty Joe, right?
yep. No, Immortal Joe.
Immortal Joe, excuse me, and she pretty much tells them what happened. Bullet Town's gone, and so on and so forth, right? So
Right.
now they're devising another plan, and then you can take it on.
Well, so then what she says is that they're being set up,
Mm.
right? Because he makes it look like they caught Gastown on fire. And so
Yes,
they're headed to Gastown to put out the fire and start the battle there, but they're not even there. They're really smart. They're wetting the desert as they're driving across the desert, so they're not kicking up any dust,
right,
right? And so uh, basically, Immortal Joe agrees that Furiosa is right. We'll execute her plan because he's in charge, and then we get the 40-day war,
mm.
right? And the 40-day war is really just a bunch of dogs running around chasing their tails, and it's just battle on top of battle on top of battle. And then Furiosa decides to make herself a prosthetic arm, and she commandeers a really horrible little vehicle, and she drives
Right,
out. She meets the older of the two brothers, and the older of the two brothers is trying to retrofit his car so he can get back into the battle. So he steals her tires, puts it on his car, and while the two brothers are arguing, she gets in this now really nice car
oh
with
yeah,
extra gas, Gatlin grappling hook on the hood, and she tears off, and the brothers are like, huh? And now she is in pursuit, back on the quest of revenge, because at this point in the film, Furiosa knows she can't get back home because she's lost her map. It
right,
was her arm. She's lost Jack. She's lost her mom. She's lost everything she's ever had. She lost her childhood. She lost her youth. She lost everything. And so the only thing left to her is revenge. So
right,
she goes after Hemsworth. Long story short, she eventually finds him. He thinks he's clever. Hemsworth is with like five other people. They split ways. One of them is in disguise as him, who she goes after first. It's not him. Fine. She eventually finds where him is.
mm.
Uh, and in the middle of the night, there's a sandstorm and he's sleeping under a tent. And in the middle of the night, she dismantles his bike, takes the bullets out of his gun, and leaves him there.
And cuts his
So,
water bag.
and cuts his water
That's
bag.
the
So
first
when
thing he
he,
grabbed was his water bag, and it had a cut in it.
right. And so he wakes up, notices the water bag, uh, comes out of his tent, notices his bike is missing its tire,
Hmm.
and sees Furiosa on the rig, grabs his gun. There's no bullets in it. And he's like, he kind of, he has no idea who she is, right?
Right,
Zero. He just knows that this is someone who's come to get him. And he's like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you just kill me in the middle of the night when I was sleeping? Clearly you could have done that. And then we got like this little kind of chase ensues where we watch Hemsworth is he's dehydrated, he's worn out, he's run down, and so she's not trying to have any kind of physical altercation with him in a way that compromises her. She's smart about how she engages with him,
right,
and eventually he just gives up. He lays prostrate on the ground and says, "Do whatever you want with me. I give up." and so she hog ties him with chains and kind of torture interrogates him, but he's not breaking because he has nothing in life that he cares about really,
Yeah.
and we identify that. And he's really kind of like, it's sad. It's really sad to watch this happen. And eventually, Furiosa says who she is. You know,
Mm.
you killed my mom. I was a little girl, and eventually Hemsworth realizes, like, it
Oh,
finally. I mean, we're
it's
looking at,
it's Little D.
it's
That was
Little D, right?
yeah.
Right. That was the nickname he'd given her as a kid, Little D. Now he hasn't seen her since she was like 12, and
Right.
she's 20 something at this point. So a lot of time's gone by. And the recognition of who she is for him in that moment is really satisfying and kind of heartbreaking. And then the narrator of the film kicks back in, and he goes through this series of things that people say she did. One is just executing them.
Mm.
One is torturing him like her mom was tortured.
Yep.
And then he tells us what he thinks happens. And it's pretty gross, grotesque, but it's also poetic because we book in the whole movie. The movie starts out looking at a tree with a peach on it,
Right.
and the
Yep.
peach is plucked. And the movie basically ends with this tree growing out of the groin of a now very old Dementus, and she's plucking its first fruit out of the tree. And so you're like, oh man, that's really kind of maniacal. Also, at this point, Furiosa has been promoted to the head driver of the war rig,
Yeah.
right? So
Which I
she's
believe
very,
is Imperator.
yes,
Imperator. Yeah.
exactly. So she's very much working for Immortal Joe at this point.
Right.
And the way the film ends is she goes into Immortal Joe's Harlem of breeding women that he uses, and he,
I think harem is the word you're looking for.
yes, that's what I say, harem,
Anime animes taught me a lot.
hey, horde of breeding women, harem, and she hides them in the underbelly of the war rig. And
Right.
this
So
is basically where Mad Max Fury Road picks up. She's
right. Right.
trying to get these women to safety, right?
Hmm.
That's it. That's the end of the film.
And my thing was this, because they were talking about going to the green place. I was like, was she able to find a way to the green place? Does someone have a plan to get them to the green place?
Well, she'd been looking at that map long enough. You'd think she kind of memorized it.
Maybe she found an alternate map on top of that, and she was able to. Yeah. Also, I liked about the peach tree within the groin of Dementis.
Yeah.
It was that same peach pit that she's been holding like her whole childhood. Like
Her
you'll see
whole
her hide it in her hair. She'll take it out. She'll put it in her mouth, and you'll see it randomly throughout the movie of different places that she holds. But she always has that peach pit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, that's our that. So that's so. What do you think, man? I guess we're gonna rank this thing. Give it a rating.
yeah. Let's. I'm gonna be honest with you. I enjoyed this, and like I said before at the beginning, if you want to make a strong female character, you got to play to the strong suits of that character. And this is it.
Yeah.
Take notes. This is how you do it. All right. You don't have to like make a strong female character and she's just out here whooping like 15 dudes and she's like 100 pounds and like 5'5". She has to be smart. She has to be clever. She has to play through her strong suits. And that's what I do. That's even with guys. You gotta play. You gotta play through. Even a
And
scrawny dude can't be out here just knocking out everyone he comes across. He got to play to the strong suits.
and they don't
And
make the villains weak.
right.
They just let them do their thing.
He did do that. And on top of that, he wasn't like he was a villain. He was crazy, but he had a little bit of soul to him. Like he talks about the family that he lost. He saw something within in Furiosa in which he like took a liking to her and kind of protected her
Hmm.
to a degree. And yeah, he was mad. He was nuts. He was insane, but he had a soul, I guess. It's kind of
Right.
a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna give this thing a solid 8.
Wow.
A solid 8. It was I enjoyed it. Like I said, it had very few loophole holes for me, and there were there were holes that I can easily just be like, all right, whatever. The rest of the movie makes up for it, so I didn't mind too much about it. But yeah, I give it 8.
I don't think I can do that. I think that's a little high. And also, it's really hard for me to watch this film and not consider where it's coming from.
Mm,
And where it's coming from is Mad Max Fury Roads, very specifically. And George Miller had always intended to shoot them back to back. He was going to shoot Fury Road, and then within a couple of years, he was set to do Furiosa, but that thing got really hindered in just a pre-production nightmare for however long it's been.
yeah, I'd imagine pandemic might have had a thing about with that
Yo,
too,
for
because
sure.
Fury Road came out in 2015. So
That's right. So yeah, between that and the strikes and the this and just life, I'm
yeah,
sure there's all kinds of stuff that gave that thing pause. Um, but listen, I think the casting's really good. I think what kind of it's it's not as there's a lot of time jumps in it.
yeah,
It's good acting. It's fun storytelling. It's not like wasn't super impactful to me though, and that's the hard thing about it. It looks great. Production value is high.
mm,
You know, the acting's good. The story is okay, but there was something missing, and I'm not entirely sure what I think that something was, other than the fact that it's very hard not to compare it to its predecessor film, which is arguably a superior film. So there's that. So that's that. I guess that's what's hard for me. So I guess I would give it a 6.5. Probably give it a
oh,
6.5. And I think a 6 point for me 6.5 is this is a good film. 6.5 is a good film.
okay. I
It's
mean, it's
not,
above average, so yeah.
yes, it's definitely above average. I mean, you say 7, I guess, but I think 6.5 is pretty fair. Um it wasn't rocking my world. I really, really appreciated the performances in it. Again, the production value super high, but there were other things like the logistics of like the road. Like it's so easy, You got to show
I
me.
mean,
Like
listen, that
I
was the
need.
same thing with Mad Max.
I guess so. I get it, man. You might be right, but yeah, I mean, you might be right. You might be right. Uh,
I mean, also with Mad Max, they did go off roading a bit, so because especially when she went from the Bullet Farm Road or whatever town she was going to at Mad Max, and they went off into the sands or into the flatlands. So
so 6.5 divided by 2, we gave it a 7.25. So collectively, we've given it a 7.
all right,
Which I think a seven is very fair for this film. You say 8, I say potato, you say potato. We collectively given it a 7, and until there are two other brothers to balance the equation, that's what it's going to get.
yeah,
Now, I'll also say this: I recommend seeing the movie. It's a
oh yeah.
spectacle film. If you can see the movie in IMAX or Dolby or something big, this is exactly the kind of movie you want for a space like that. You know.
Mm, peach, I could eat a peach for hours. Yeah, face.
Yo. All right, Nick.
All these movies are certain flavor, are a certain. All these movies are certain flavor. None of them are changing the whole, but 6.5 at least use a whole number. He's putting your feet to the fire. He's like, yo, stop all these point fives, son.
6, but it's not a 6. I'm not sure it's a 7 either. 6.5 is appropriate. I'm sorry, Corey, you're just wrong. 6.5 is an appropriate number for here.
Oh,
And
whoa.
after it's been factored in, it got its whole number, 7.25, rounded to 7. And we did round it just then. So I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
IMAX LSD experience? LSD. Huh. Experience or just the whole. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't do IMAX. I really don't do IMAX, and there's reasons for that. In my IMAX, all they have are the plush seats, and I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to be in here for an hour and a half or
Yay.
2.5 hours, I want to recline back. All right. So I
Oh,
just joined into the regular joint, and I was like, I just splurged on the bucket combo. I was like, I really can't do IMAX because I can't just be sitting there in a rocker the whole time
nope.
for
Dolby's
the
where
length
it's
of
at.
these movies. Nah,
For me, Dolby's the nice house. I'll give
and
you.
I'm paying more for no recliners. I'm not doing that,
Uh, uh,
sir. No, no,
no, you're right. You're right. Listen, I didn't see it in the IMAX either, but it's a big screen.
no. Okay, it's a big screen. You got to be like this. I
You got
can't
to
do
sit
that.
back.
Yeah,
You got to sit back.
nah, I would rather lay back. Like, let me recline.
Well, that's our take on Furiosa. I think it's time for some recommendations. Chris was going to do the recommendations, so we're going to wing this real quick. If you're looking for spin-off prequel series about supporting characters, here are a few that you might want to check out. You could check out Obi-Wan,
Obi
which
Wan
is a
Kenobi.
prequel
Yeah,
spin-off.
you could do Boba Fett.
You could do Boba Fett. That's right. You could do what's that other movie? You could do the Continental.
Yes, I guess you can do the Continental.
Because you could. I don't know why you want to.
You could do the Continental.
Some other spin-off prequel series.
Hold
And
on.
these are all TV shows. Um, let's see.
You could do Electra.
No, that was a standalone. Oh, you're
I mean,
right.
it's a spin-off of Daredevil.
She was in Daredevil and then
Yeah.
got the spin-off.
I mean, you could do Wolverine. You got a bunch of Wolverines out there.
That's true, but he was kind of like the main character in the X-Men movie too. They hung the whole thing on him.
Okay, Bumblebee. That's a spin-off.
Okay, you could do Bumblebee. Yeah, this is good. You're crushing the Rex.
I mean, I just did a simple Google.
Let's get two more.
There's two more. Annabelle, which also turned into a whole series on its own.
Okay, that's good. Annabelle, yes.
Bird
One
Box
more.
Barcelona. No. That movie was horrible. Don't look at that Bird Box. Look at the first Bird Box, even though it's not
Oh,
perfect.
mhm.
But yeah, that second one, stay away from it. And you got Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw.
Great. There's a good example. You got a standalone movie that's not really a prequel, Hobbs and Shaw, but it's a standalone movie based off some supporting characters. So if you like that premise, you could do
Oh,
that.
one more for Chris. Venom. Venom's he's a spinoff. He's
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
he's not he's not a
yeah.
main character. I mean, in the comic, he's a main character now.
Now,
No, for a while he was, but that's. I mean, this is the list they give me. Okay.
yeah, listen, you're right, and that one could be for Chris because he's gonna venom it up. Now, there's
He's
only
going to
one
Venom.
movie left.
Yeah, that's
Have
it.
you purchased your Deadpool and Wolverine
I
tickets
have
yet?
not. I feel like I should.
Yo, they're on sale. I was actually looking at it, and that opening day is pretty much sold out where I'm at.
Well, I don't have to worry about opening it. There's no way I'm doing open. I'll be
Did
working.
you did you get the silence your phone
Yeah.
treat?
Yes. That was funny. That was hilarious.
Yo, this movie's gonna be so good. So that's
Uh,
our take, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will reprimand Chris. I know we lost about half the viewers in there, but is what it is.
Corey said Knuckles,
Knuckles
which
is
yes,
true. He's right.
and Fiona and Cake, yes. Adventure Time, yes. Oh yeah.
Yo, Corey with the Rex.
All right,
Uh, let's get out of here.
let's get up out of here. Let's
Yeah.
as much as
Like,
I enjoy this, I got some festivities to partake in. No family time, a rarity of family time for me.
all right. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Peace. Oh, everything went to sleep.